Hello. Where might, where power, and where force are bonded value is a course that is greater still, and while lesser than everything, at the extent and where and how the identity of forever is a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more perfect value progression. One identity by shared by all other identities of value progression individually grouped in together. And so, dear Congress, you have long been victims, applied as predators through not only reactions to it, but used and being used originally and still remotely that way since before digital definitions of that or electronic. These are database. This is first the engineering of the identity of the ground native pure relationship to our quality of fact treatment nature. And our engineering of that as an edificial relationship to this identity of the grounds, identity of relationship to itself, no, with the nest as the rest of, as the value of the rest of nature, space nature, with no criminal foreign influences. Everyone uses value incomplete. This system, this science is about the identity of relativity. Because while it is all identities of value progression individually grouped together, it is again simultaneously while being greater than and from less than. This distinctly and non-distinctly. It is how it is self-generating. More forever nature that is also only positive unto itself in relationship to Earth's distinct and non-distinct relationship to the rest of space nature. It is this distinct and non-distinct relationship it has to and has itself. The identity of value progression per science, offensively, not by accident. Each identity of the ground science maintained a bridge science. Cold world. You have to go for jobs. Perspectives from that. Inclusion. This is what this did to Native Americans A through Z. It forced the value nature system, forced entertained by everyone, fact treatment nature wise, then defenses of that wise. Styles in relationship to what a semi ancient archetypal organized crime method. So, not just theoretically. Is involved with this. Now, just who can't admit that, this is why we need forgiveness. Because this is the nature of worse than transnational organized crime groups. This is where originally and still they are in collusion with where and how each identity of each branch of government, each database relationship it was raised victims to be reactions to its self-valuing, told how being having been told how to react to it, where and how the identity of the branch is originally still for reasons they didn't understand. Same way the identities of the tribes, the states and areas, all location states and areas were put into the semi-ancient trap. We're all former identities of positive treatments, of value treatments. I can't stand free speech with about values actual course. I'll drop the force. Because one thing alone is surging through all things. Vaccines, we are simultaneously needing to and not needing to agree about the name of God. Per the science of this identity of value progression, we're not supposed to agree on the name, but we need to too, so we can stay on the same page. Not just stay on the same page, because we're in an identity of negative value nature progression on the same page. Modern nations need to torture each other with they're already in layers invested fact cheaping nature wise. Can't defend that. Here there are hundreds of nations at once for time impositions built to keep everyone self-valued getting over on forever nature's course using simultaneously time always too fast too slow get over on people. Please, TV judges, TV judges, justices, judges, I'll I'll sign whatever I have to sign, whatever, so we could have the news not afraid to be sued. But we have to unhinge what they have connected between the universities and campuses. And it's right through nations. It is recorded how they have been using and used. This is how they use them no more. They keep the various natures of courts, the identities of them. We're talking about and arranging things to talk about where they're pretending things recorded into databases. Specifically to pretend passions and emotions they need to pretend where now as and how they're involved with these crime methods. For example, if someone's shooting at you, someone's hurting you, you don't have to wait till the you're not supposed to wait to sue them for that. The branches of government are pretending they need to be sued, otherwise they're going to keep stacking databases with racketeering acts against me and against a whole bunch of people. These are people on off Fox Connecticut News involved with a whole bunch of people. 2 Mendez pleas, crimes with police equipment with a principal sex offenders campus, as people with further with this is also tied to them racketeering with the transition people with the transition from ACA to RICO, and with overt criminal enterprises and police forms recorded and confessed and demonstrated through time involved with them with all these nations in collusion with uses of their roles with lie progressions from databases, lie progressions from job sites, where we have nations like with DACA, demonstrated, recorded, confessed. They have collusion with all kinds of medical racketeering, like with psychology. Needs to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, active, progressive values that are simultaneously. They want to have debates about value with physical delusions, with criminally formed influence premises treatments, originally still identity racketeering. The scientists share an identity. They have everyone tricked, self-valued. They're not going to be able to respond to really what they need to respond to with little punk things through the kids. These programs, each identity of the ground location is in this trap. Further and further to what is already the identity of the ground. Before that was integrity. That's more integrity than it. Still, as that which is going to cause negative value nature progressions, acts natures. Not by accident, perpetually blamed on other causes, other things themselves. The real causes. This is shock and awe. Per roles in collusion with the hundreds of nations, the top legal minds, like Robert Luskin, former standing chairperson on RICO law, former director of the FBI, before Mueller and Comey, recorded involved with them. Now they have to pretend they're legitimate here. In other words, we have hundreds of nations with job sites like UPS. They want to debate things out of sequence. I told you I'll sign. I won't sue them too. That I want just the individuals like associated with this Joshua Straker, and a Joshua Julian further recorded and confessed to demonstrating involved with interbranch courts with their Facebook pages, with crimes with child sex offenders, with human trafficking acts, with the media. I want those guys to form, and these are sequence shifts. They're pretending, oh, they just hear no evil, see no evil. They're discrediting my sources. I don't even know their names yet because they're from high school. In relationship to you walk by, someone's going to say something, and they're establishing identity thefts, stacking them more and more, database racketeering against each age of factory nature. Again, don't forget time always. Get this. We're in a trap. Self-value. One must rap. So this is built to keep everyone incapable of defending other than individually grouped together, especially if they try to speak with logic that's not criminally foreign influence, that's not valuing criminal insidious nature, that's not valuing all that tied to the more they've stacked database racketeering acts rolls, the more that instantly translates into each location, age, and area they have to self-value. Each identity of correlations means. Each age of fact treatment natures means. One way redeemed. So they fill them with knowledge fake, categorically. Even when it's real, they use two truths and facts for lies, exploiting the. And this is also where they have this sustained per how per how they have. Excuse me, I just had a bug. So we'll examine. Now, this is what we need to do. For example, put the Republic Organization Coalition as an artistic injunctive relief means. I'm not a lawyer. But the bar itself is recorded criminally foreign influenced. The bar itself is recorded originally instilled to the defense of identities, of judgment, and of takes on the identity of the value of identities of job through criminally foreign influenced roles with criminally exploited through the worst overt internation archetypal racketeering method, worse than racketeering method, or archetypal organized crime method, worse than war crimes. Before those were sophistications of identities of orders following knaves, modern nations, militaries. They were the pseudo positive where they had medical. Oh, that's positive. It's medical. They know we're going to say that. So that's where they had psychology with this identity racketeering. The experts, now these is where courts already having been involved with them with racketeering with the areas too. Every time they do, they go further and further into collusion with database racketeering, sequence racketeering. They further and further they have to value what is state inter all identity of the ground locations. Things perpetually annually manifest for what is sustained, that is self-value, to keep effectively originally still all locations, areas, and states of each modern nation self-valued roles with this logic racketeering styles as criminal deceased valuing identities as natures, as branches of government, judicial, executive, and the political one. Now, sequence nature is phenomenon in relationship to the simultaneous nature that pushes value from space, from temporary / lasting space, where it is and how. existence is also value coming in and getting pushed out of temporary slash lasting space as their shared bonded identity by and as this one that is complete possession of itself. This is why and how we have cells manifest. I'm not a doctor. So you see, you look outside, you see trees, you see plants. In my science class at Central Connecticut State University. See, then they use the identities of campuses because they have each age of campus in collusion. Then they put the jobs there. Then they're going to have problems and have to react to them. They're going to have to rely on experts. Those experts were already identity of the ground locations already involved with this database racketeering, translated further and further back to roles with the criminally foreign influence locations, areas, and states originally still. That's all that is to the simple correlation by and how before cars, these pathology of homes, that everyone was a slave not to be able to speak about, or that would really hurt them in relationship to database relationships. It's before our founding parents were born. Right here in Weathersfield, Connecticut, right between New York and Boston, George Washington had to leave slavery entrenched, even with the French general's help. He could only semi-counter extort. And New York, forget about it. This was more than just slavery. This is to control the human fact-cheaping nature reactions to it, and then defenses of that, where they have each identity, the ground location, in this method that uses each identity. And no one was watching that. Everyone was blaming other things, others, themselves. And there was this archetypal racketeering method. The devil. That's what this is no joke. Where here first before a little rap guy and friends make movies about stuff, because this is also those are also identity, the ground, locations, theater roles, timed means to juxtapose involvements with the worst crimes against humanity that are facilitated through the people and through this, where everyone gets over on the perfect world. Interbranch are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. This is completely fact-cheaping nature racketeering involved with how they prevent the surface values of the Constitution and simultaneously pretend to be for it, misprision, simultaneously self-valuing statistics that would only be and are in collusion too with what causes that as victims, as victim predators, incapable of allowing free speech for all that tied to everyone speaking through others. They have whole, they use that to invest people to roll self-valuing the branches of government with identity thefts, human trafficking acts roles, attaching little kids and their families to fake locations, fake ties to other people, pretending integrity with people that are getting over because they need to hide lipoaggressions. They already did too. All human standards are manifest this way. Humanity vaccines. So we have the people that commit crimes. They're in collusion with the maintenance to all locations, areas, and states criminally foreign influenced, sickly distinctly, exploited that way, commonly, but sickly distinctly hurt because of effectively to keep how sickly non-distinctly and simultaneously from being discerned, and for reasons all juxtaposed other. How this is exploited through an as a sequence racketeering method that took and take and keeps everyone invested, like with treatments of Mueller and Comey, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering with the branches of government and collusion, pretending to be about judicial independence. They have the on and off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices, all place homes and families all along that route, involved with racketeering with other nations and with on and off campuses of each age, and further with sustained same things because it's all inclusion. I never had a verbal conversation in my life. He has other people speak there. He signifies it, and there are affidavits I can get in there from the past regarding a Dillon family with military, foreign, and domestic. Also, again, with the orders with the interbranch, or they're with the identities of them. These are also private database relationships and those families. This is also recorded how they were effectively, consciously having been, and consciously still stacking names of people against individuals, pretending things real and made up. Even when they pretend things real, they're attaching lies to it. They're using it to lie. They're leaving out their confessions juxtaposed with that. They're leaving out the uses of confessions recorded actually. All kinds of departments at Central Connecticut State University are involved with as victims, but as victims, predators, for example, just as one all of the campuses and universities, the people down the road from off of the campus. These are judges and prosecutors and our military and a whole bunch of nations shared. And then they have on and off campuses further and further. They have all along the Solstein Highway, which the shopping malls and stuff like that, all along the route from where we have people them involved. Central Connecticut State University, not only with child sex offender leaders, medical offenders, and interbranch human trafficking acts rolls, sick uses of their kids rolls with it. Because these people had the high lipoaggressions from time. How many cases they had? They juxtaposed their needs to hide their roles with what was is really going bad with everywhere. Sickly, distinctly, effectively having been kept originally and still. Even Native Americans made them blame other things, others themselves, for what really it is. No free speech with science true. And not and using exception in the exception nature's course with the truth. Because one truth is generating all others, has a relationship to it. Positive is about, that's why we need water. That's about positive. This course doesn't, you can't make it some other kind of thing. Now it's jobs. Oh, this is the algorithm. This is the complete identity of forever that has all parts of space nature like the identities of our body. Complete identity simultaneously as semi-nature relationships to our complete identity. Our complete identity is with grouped and with species bond. Species simultaneously not bonded. And both of that inseparable, not only from Trinity, which is more and more, but its identity of relationship to itself. And we can discern this because it is so that way those bonded three ways, distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously, onto the orders of value. See, the order of physics is value as nature, juxtaposed as the value of the order to metaphysics, juxtaposed and bonded with and as the value/value progression of identity's nature or volume. See, metaphysics is in nature or volume, that it is inside this, while as the extent of itself. Same as the body, same as the body of physics. So the sciences share an identity, and when they share a course about positive, anywhere there is positive or negative, there is identity between each. And identity has its identity of relationship to itself. It has the value of that, again, distinctly and non distinctly onto all parts of itself. We're not being allowed free speech and science at the same time. It's free sequence nature. We have identity racketeering originally and still. We have misprision, like I believe that's the term, where group corruption, all identities of the body of the judicial branch, individually, all the bodies of the executive branch individually, grouped it together, same thing. And all the individuals grouped in together, differences of the political branches, Congress, all it's connected to. Criminally foreign influence, delusions wrought, sequence racketeering, shock and awe, use remote, valuing that the means to be, be fact cheating nature, racketeering natures, pretend to be about against crimes. These are the people that have been standing outside, for example, metaphorically, hurting us all different ways and pretending to be against that. We have to be able to defend ourselves outside of courts. And in courts, they are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated how they already forced the wrong outcomes in cases. They already use those databases for their own personal racketeering. That's why they brought up and how they brought up the pretended integrity they have in regards to positive treatments of how presidents should communicate with other nations. We're in this identity trap. We're the only counters to overtly crazy militarization of hundreds of nations at the same time. That's forced to stay in collusion with what was engineered to perpetually keep everyone blaming other things, others, and selves for the real cause of negative value, nature, progression, accident, free speech is not. Freedom of religion is not. Freedom of science is not. They have to pretend other further and further. They have to value criminally foreign influenced sciences, identity, the ground locations only ever having been allowed to be accepted by themselves as themselves. Same way they have slavery. It is slavery. That's why George Washington had to leave in this town, but it's still here. Effective uses remotely of every person who makes an opinion about what really American history is about. It's not complicated. It's just extensive, not through what they call extensive. Our founding parents were forced to be collusion with criminal and seditious nature that was already in collusion with what was already entrenched, not just self-valued and defended, then that defended, and that engineered to collusion within as itself, within as humanity as an identity of negative value, nature, progression, not just self-value, not understand, just understand, then used remotely that way. Maintained, needing to hide lies. They couldn't have the most sophisticated people. They couldn't fathom, realizing they'd have to, for all that it is really to. on and off campuses of each age of the human fact sheet nature. Not by accident. So all along a route from my town through towns to Central Connecticut State University, on and off Central Connecticut State University, Paul Manafort Drive, and CNN is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the agencies and judges and sheriffs and their families involved with WFSB and Fox Connecticut News racketeering acts. Now they're also involved with that, with racketeering acts on and off campuses, like of each age of fact sheeting nature, intercities too, connected with this way. Now, how they're being coached to pretend other per their roles with the interbranch forging names, switching names. This is also, if you TV justices will help. So this is going to show everyone. That's why forgiveness is for you, for this. You guys can't take it though. So that's why they have you guys invested with database racketeering against each age of the human of fact sheeting nature. Pretending other by pretending to care about jobs when you guys know you're involved with other natures of extortion, but you can't handle the means that demonstrate this actually recorded, not by accident. We have this trap that was forced since before our founders were born, since before cars. The pathology of tactically denatured native ground, its identity of relationship to itself that causes and is and reveals evolution's fruits and gifts. The value progression here, that is Earth's difference. Otherwise, it makes more and more our difference forced from here, leaves of Hadith, which the ancients wouldn't believe. We would leave what really the identity of evolution is about vaccines. You keep you can put poisons more and more in waters and stuff like that. You can call it invention because you guys are identities that need pseudo positive. You guys are victims of this sick thing that sustained itself. So we train ourselves. We're gonna set up we're gonna make movies to in other words, before we're gonna set up Republic Organization Coalition, artistic reliefs. We have to use what is true always, not denying exceptions, and we have to move where they won't follow mandated law, and where that's simultaneously connected to other things. And this is an identity. Each identity of the ground, location, area, and the state already was self-valued in this trap, pretending to be against it. Oh, that's my colleague. I don't like that one. Interbranch. They're in collusion. Fake difference. Though their identity, the ground locations are involved with identity racketeering, with positive racketeering, with sequence racketeering. Way worse than that. I'm just saying that because it contains that, like mail crime, wire crimes, whole methods of it. Try to have they pretend, oh, well, it's about the opinions, because the opinions are being led by liars pretending they're just about advertisement, competition. They're preventing they're used remotely. Now they're defending that. You can't entertain anything capable of not valuing being roles with the more wars and more predicate acts, standardized. A whole bunch of natures of it upon areas where there are a lot of shootings through time. Every time they open their mouths about their statistics about it, it's recorded. They left out how recorded actually, like a Kevin Harris. A whole bunch of people associated with a Kevin Harris and with Quinnipiac University. are involved. I barely know him. I never had a conversation with him personally. Like one sentence, maybe I ever had with him. And see, he knew because his mother. That's why I told him. I don't know. I told someone next to him. I don't even thought. I think I had one sentence with him. But his mother was involved with like databases, sociology, things like that with the kids, and they write junk into databases that is in relationship to where they already had originally. Still, we're shown needs to hurt and to value hurt, who they help, and all other like that, even their own family members, in relationship to their needs to hide life progressions for their uses of all database relationships, including and especially interbranch, including especially intercampuses, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, while the private